Hello, everybody. Very excited to be here today. We'll just give everybody another minute or so to join. I can see people are ticking in before we get started here. Okay, awesome. Quick introductions to start. If I haven't met you yet, my name is Nick Keiko. I'm the VP of Marketing here at DocuSketch. Been here for a couple of years, and I'll be totally honest, this is a very exciting day for us. We've been working incredibly hard behind the scenes for quite a while now on what we are going to show you today. Very excited for Ralph, our founder and CEO, to kick us off in a couple of minutes here. And then Andrew, our VP of Product, is going to get into some real hands-on demos that'll show you what him and the team have been building. It's quite incredible to see the speed with which they're working and the output that's come out of them. So I won't talk too long, but one quick housekeeping item. You'll see in the bottom right side of your window, there's a little questions box. We won't probably have time for live Q&A today, but we would love to answer your questions as we go. So you can drop your questions in there. We've got some DocuSketch team members that can answer them in the chat. So go ahead and drop them in there as we go through the presentations as they pop up, and we'll do our best to get to everybody's questions. So yeah, as the numbers keep rising, we will hand it over to Ralph here for a quick intro.
Hello everybody, my name is Ralph. I'm the CEO and founder of DocuSketch, and I'd like to personally welcome you to today's product presentation. I normally don't speak at events like that, but today's different. Today is a big moment for our company, because today we want to announce something which we truly think can change the documentation and estimating process. Today we announce DocuSketch 360 AI, an instant estimate solution. Before we begin, I want to start with a big thank you to our customers who supported us over the last years. Your feedback, your trust, and sometimes even your criticism helped us to build what you can see today. So truly, thank you. Over the last year, a lot of you asked us one question: why has DocuSketch not released a product? The answer is simple: because we want to make it right. We don't want just to bring out something to have it, which is not solving the problem. Building the right solution takes time, but today we are ready. So let's step back and talk about another topic many of you raised. It's sketch pricing, especially for small jobs. And we hear you. With the next release, we will reduce the price for a small sketch to under $30. We are all living in a time where AI is moving incredibly fast. New tools appear nearly every week. Capabilities that seem to be impossible are now normal. But despite all of these facts, one thing remains the same: the homeowner. The homeowner is the center of every claims process. For the homeowner, a claim is not just a process. It's a stressful and even emotional and painful situation. And all of us, contractors, adjusters, insurance, share the same goal: to restore the home of the homeowner and try to get normality in his life as soon as possible. The faster we can document the damage, create an estimate, and move the process forward, the better is the experience for everybody involved. That's the problem we set out to solve. When we look at existing AI estimating tools, we notified something interesting. At first glance, they seem to be super and looked very impressive. They can generate an estimate with a little information extremely fast. And when you take a deeper look at it, you have still some reminding questions. Where is this line item coming from? Does the estimate follow specific carrier standards? Is it meant as a preliminary estimate, as a supplement estimate, or a final estimate? In claims, these details matter, because writing a great estimate doesn't start at the office. It starts in the field. DocuSketch 360 AI field documentation helps field people capture and document the right things, follow carrier standards, and avoid mistakes before they are happening. And that is exactly what we will show you today. So with that, I'd like to hand over to Andrew, our VP of Product, who will walk you through our new and your new estimating platform. Thank you for your time.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Ralph, for the wonderful intro. Hello, everyone. For those of you that I have not yet met, my name is Andrew Wyrick. I am the VP of Product here at DocuSketch, and I am excited to bring you today a lot of what we have been working on so hard over the last months to really bring forward a suite of tools that we think are going to help you from capture all the way through estimate. Give us a second here to change over our screen. Okay. What I'm going to talk about today is what I would describe as a mainline of new features and functionality, a lot of which you have been asking for. We're going to have a sign up link at the end to join the beta. And there we're going to have a lot more details. I think as you see what I go through today, it'll be obvious to you that there's more even available than what we can fit in this hour-long webinar. So I'd encourage you, as you get to the end, sign up to the beta, even if you're just interested in a portion of what we talk about today, as there is a lot for us to get through. But I really want to focus on some of the biggest things that we think will make the most impact to your everyday lives and businesses. But before that, I want to start and ground us in what are the challenges that we're really looking to solve. Technology for technology's sake really doesn't matter. It matters that we have a good understanding as DocuSketch of what is really the biggest challenges in your way from being successful as users, as a business, and then what we can do to help with those challenges. In visiting with customers, especially over the last 8-9 months, what I have seen is 3 sort of buckets of challenges that continue to pop up again and again when I observe technicians in the field, users in the field, folks in the back office. The first is, and what really struck me is how fragmented the field capture landscape is. I did a straw poll of 36 customers, and the average number of apps it takes to capture data on site in just the first 3 visits, whatever those 3 visits happen to be, was about 4.5 apps. That's average, with the greatest number being 11 apps in one case. I can't imagine trying to be somebody in the field trying to track across all of those different apps, all of the different standard operating procedures, use this app, use that app. That's a big problem for the industry, and it's one of the things that most customers say to me is their biggest challenge is that fragmentation, and they're really looking to bring it down to fewer applications in the field to really help the technician or the user on site. With that fragmentation and with the complexity of just trying to data capture, it really leaves those supervisors or operational roles, project managers who are responsible for job scope to try to piece it back together and figure out, have we captured scope? Do we actually know what we're doing? And do I have the ability as sort of the expert for my company to make changes, to understand where the gaps are, and to make sure that we are doing the job and doing the job right? And then the third piece is all the way into estimating. That disconnected data finds its way into estimates, where we see a lot of very educated guesswork, frankly, to try and fill in the gaps in estimating. We see delays as you're trying to pull data forward or get the right data to confirm that the estimate is right and to make sure you have the right data for compliance. And then, of course, getting to compliance, not having all the data you need, and hitting challenges and actually ensuring that that estimate is fully compliant with any carrier rules that may exist. So our goals for what you're about to see, the product innovation side. So if those are the challenges, what are our goals? We really think that great estimating is going to start at data capture. And our goal for our team is, we call it 5-3-1. It's 5 times easier to capture, 3 times the value out of what you capture, but try to keep the user on site to just be the same exact amount of time. So if they spend an hour on site, can we make it 5 times easier than it is for them today? So that should speed them up and get 3 times more value out of that 1 hour they're spending. This can be really challenging, but I think as you'll see our solutions, you'll see how this kind of manifests in the way we think about solving data capture challenges with some really exciting features. We want to create the ability to eliminate field gaps and mistakes. Nelson, who I think I could just use a first name only basis, probably with all of you, calls this reducing or eliminating as much windshield time as possible. Can we get to the user on site before they even leave, knowing that there's a gap in the data that they should be able to fill with just maybe an extra video or an extra photo or an extra 360? We want to help you win more work. So both for the faster delivery of preliminary estimates, but also to secure out-of-pocket prospects and actually win the work in those scenarios where maybe an insurance company might not be involved. And then we want to reduce those compliance challenges. If we do our job right, you'll be confident in wherever this estimate goes next, be it Verisk Xactimate or another platform, that you're going to be able to meet any compliance challenges head on and streamline your ability to get through approval. We're going to separate this out into 3 buckets today in terms of what I'm going to demo and talk about: capture, scope, and estimate. And so in each one of these buckets, we'll go through what's important, and we're just going to touch on a sliver for each, but some really, really exciting features here that are coming for you. And let's start with maybe what's the biggest one, and that's in capture. We have been developing a AI model that can live on your phone and from a 360 image, develop mitigation caliber floor plans. This model living on your phone means it will work offline, it will work right with your camera, and you'll be able to instantly see what the measurements for that floor plan is just after taking that 360 image and having it move to your phone. We're going to see this in a second in a couple of demos. Don't worry. A couple of other features I want to call out. It will include the simple merging of rooms together to create affected area plans. So it'll be able to floor plan a single room or a combination of rooms together. What I'm not going to demo today and wanted to mention on this slide is we do also have a LiDAR solution for this. And really thinking about it, I did this 3 weeks ago now. I went to a conference and guess what I forgot? My camera. It happens. So in those situations where you don't have your camera and you still want to capture as much data as possible on site, we want to make that easy for you too. So if you happen to have a phone with LiDAR, we have a backup option for you, but you do not need a phone with LiDAR to use 360 to floor plan. So I want to jump right into a demo and show you how this works. This is a demo we recorded actually just a couple of days ago by my colleague Charlie. So this is an actual demo of an actual property. These first couple screens aren't really that important, but what Charlie is doing is he is going to set up a new just 360 image. He's just confirming the height and he's confirming the camera. And here's where the exciting part's going to start. So what Charlie's actually doing here is he has a physical 3D camera, which you can't, 360 camera, which you obviously can't see. And Charlie just took a photo. So this is the 360 image. This is already what you do today in DocuSketch. But here's where the magic starts. What's happening is we are running a series of AI models to detect a lot of different things about the space and the image that was just taken. And what you are seeing is the results of those multiple small models that are detecting not just the size of the space, but also doors, windows, and other depth information. What Charlie is showing you right now is the results, which is, as you can see, the different windows, doors. It's able to project behind it in this example where it is not able to see that floor seam that is behind the couch, but is able to, through probabilities and through understanding what the other parts of the room are, has a good understanding of where that floor likely ends. We do have tools that you'll be able to make small adjustments if necessary. But we also are able to capture so much more data and information as well right away. So remember, I talked about 3x the value. What we want to be able to do is not just capture the floor plan measurements, but because it's 360 imagery, we can start capturing more information about the nature of the space. And so this is what's called a depth map. You're seeing a preview mode. By the time this gets to you, this will look a little bit less, we'll call it techie, and a little bit more simplified. But the actual point will be the same, which is we want to be able to see more information, not just for humans, but also for AI and technology tools to be able to consume that information. So what we have is a three-dimensional model of that space. Now Charlie's going to save this, and I'm going to move to the next slide. For some of you that are savvy, you probably noticed and maybe said, "Great, Andrew, that's a room with 4 walls." Pretty straightforward. Fair. That's a pretty straightforward room. But let's look at what happens when we do something at a little bit more of an open floor plan. And I want to show you one additional feature for this functionality. So what Charlie has done is he's moved to an open floor plan kitchen, living room, dining room combination. And he's going to take a 360 photo in that area. See here, it's pretty open. It's going to run through those same AI models. And you can see it's a much bigger floor plan. So in this example, it's got both the kitchen and the dining room area in combination that it's rendering. I'm just going to back up a touch, and then you can see what is an additional feature that we're going to be able to introduce with this AI modeling. And let's say where to go next feature. One of the biggest pieces of feedback we get is just, where do I take the 360s? How many should I take? And there's a couple of best practice rules: open and close doors, open and close closets. But how do you know if you just captured the general room space well? And what we're able to do with this model is actually see not only where we know all the data, but where we don't. And so what you're looking at is our ability to project and say, where should the next 360 photo be taken? Once you take enough 360 photos for that space, it will not show a next step. It will simply show that we have the data we need to accurately model the space. Really exciting stuff. So again, that is a mitigation caliber floor plan. It's ready for what are next steps that you can do with that floor plan, and that's what we're going to talk about now. Once you have the floor plan down, we have new suite of tooling to map the affected area and introduce equipment and label and map equipment of all of the different equipment types in line with IICRC standards. So we're going to see another demo here of this in a second. We can quickly note affected areas. We can mark moisture on floors, walls, ceilings. We're able to auto place things like wall cuts. And we have other company specific defaults that is going to make this technology work in seconds for the cases that are most common for you in restoration. We have the ability to create multiple drying chambers for one affected area scan. So, and you can see the line in blue there in the image on the left, that is the containment barrier line. And we can do multiple of those in a single scan. So let's take a look. We're going to actually take the same exact demo, and I'm going to skip forward to where we left off. And so at this point, this is the original, the four simple walls demo that we saw first. And then Charlie's just going to continue. What he's doing is he's mapping out what is the affected area of moisture on the floor. He's noting the likely category and class for this water job. Based on just that single water area, we automatically determine that it's likely a 2-foot wall cut in order to dry out that exterior wall. And then from that information alone, we are able to determine with cat class and that moisture area, what are the recommended number of air removers, scrubbers, and dehumidifiers that should be put into the space. Now, a simple example, you can layer on a lot onto this. You can do floors, you can have floors and ceilings. You can have multiple different ways that you mark up the walls. there is a lot here, but we really wanted to show in simple cases, this can be done in literally seconds. We do multiple different types of calculations to determine the number of movers, dehues, and scrubbers. We'll have a make and model catalog as well, so you're able to change the make and model in terms of the company default, the office default, but also for a specific job. And so we're able to curate those specific numbers to the specific situation. One other big piece to data capture I want to cover today, and that is speech to scope. So speech to scope is going to automatically convert just an audio walkthrough of the job to a fully formed scope sheet along with the affected area map that you just saw. One of the things that I think is interesting as visited customer sites is two things in combination. One, how much information I was getting in conversation with technicians in the field about what they were seeing, and how little of that information was sometimes making it into one of the 4.5 apps they were using. But it's also interesting to visit the field because there is so much going on that's really important if we're going to capture video and audio and try to use that video and audio. The first was, if it's already a job that started, it's loud. It's super loud. Movers are not quiet. And then additionally, a lot of technicians, a lot of users in the field, English is their second language, right? And they're much more comfortable and they speak every day in languages like Spanish, right? So these things matter. And what we have built is the ability to take speech from the field and isolate it, translate it from Spanish, transcribe it, and then turn that into scope. Each one of those steps is specialized for this use case. For example, to transcribe, right? Industry lingo matters. I was just joking with a colleague last night. We were talking about dehues, and the way Slack, our chat app, was converting dehue was actually pretty humorous, right? But that's industry-specific lingo that whatever is doing the transcription should know what a dehue is. And that's just one of thousands of examples of industry-specific lingo that's loaded into the transcription model. And then from there, what we can do is apply your company standards as well as common standards to say, what is the scope information that is in this actual transcribed document? And from there, we're able to actually create a full scope of work using just a couple back and forth pieces of conversation. Let's see how that works. I'm going to go back to our same exact demo because I really want to show the end-to-end experience here. So what's happening now is you can't hear him because I'm talking, but Charlie is speaking into the speech to scope tool. Once he's done, he gets this transcription dialog. This gives him the ability to edit anything he might see that isn't correct. Again, that already understands industry lingo. So this should really come in with any sort of industry lingo already well-defined. And then from there, what we're able to do is match that common language to scope of work items. The result is a scope checklist. Some of these things are left blank because there was simply no info in them, but also we're able to detect anywhere that there is some information, but we really need a clarification in order to understand what the scope of the job is. So in this example, it wasn't exactly clear where there was ceiling damage and what Charlie was describing in his scope notes. And so this conversation just transpires by the scope notes tool just asking a very simple question back to the user, like which of these two options was it? Like, this is a fundamentally different way of interacting with users than the traditional long form forms, including DocuSketch's scope of work tool today, that is used where you're really putting it all on the user to just think about whether or not they've got everything figured out. or you're putting it on the back office to create a whole lot of configuration. And even then, that form is very frictionless for users. Instead, a conversation, a couple of yes, nos, and from there, we've got a fully functional scope of work that we can use for next steps. Charlie's also showing how inevitably in all of our tooling, what we want the ability to do, and what he did there very briefly, is you still have the ability to just edit the data. You know, with a lot of these tools, you just get to a point where you're like, I'm 95% of the way there, and I just need to edit a couple of things. This is done. And we want to keep that ability. So there, we're able to interact with the scope of work tool, do a couple of minor manual edits, and now we have a fully captured scope of work. What I want to show is, right now, we're about 3 minutes and 10 seconds into this video. And what Charlie is showing now is a mitigation caliber floor plan, affected areas documented, equipment counts noted, and on the next page, what you'll see is a full scope of worksheet defined. We're going to see where this goes on the back end in the next step. But pretty incredible, 3 minutes, full scope of work. So where we started is disconnected tools to bring all of that data together that you just saw. And even when the tools are available, a lot of the processes are manual, they're very time consuming, and they're error prone. What we're looking to do instead is to use that 360 to floor plan to instantly create those mitigation floor plans, give the user tools to communicate simply through things like the affected area mapping, through just dropping equipment in the right spots, and then through simple conversation, be able to fill in a scope of worksheet that at times took quite literally filling in 100 form fields in order to get it all right. So we think of it as, let's reduce the amount of data that we force to be put through a form, and instead let's have conversations, and let's deliver actionable guidance throughout that process. An incredibly exciting set of tools in data capture. I want to say that what we're not covering in data capture includes getting feedback from the back office. So please, please, please sign up for the beta. We want to show you more about how feedback is going to transpire between the back office and the field, as it's another important point, not just what they know, but also what did they miss. So transformative tools and data capture. I mentioned that scope sheet that was in that last page that you saw briefly. Something I've been kind of collecting for the last 6 months, and thank you to our customers who have sent me some of these, even from the 1980s and 1990s, are old school scope sheets. And ideally, I've been asking for ones even that were filled out, like finding something from 30 years ago, and some customers have dug them up for me and sent them to me. And I was really interested in these because it really shows our team how it was done when it was just one person, a clipboard, and they had to get everything on the job site, and maybe a disposable camera that they had to develop film for later. And why I think that is important is, I think when we're forced into something like a scope sheet, you're really forced to document a lot in very little space, but you have to leave knowing you've gotten everything you need for the job. And we want to take that mindset. How do we bring that mindset forward into today's technology? And so what we are developing and what we're introducing today is the ability to streamline auditing and even managing the scope of work for any of your DocuSketch projects. We're building a unified scope hub where all of the data you just saw captured, plus any photos captured, any form fields filled in, and any other data that we can bring in, all come together, and a live scope sheet is available. Just like all of other tools, though, you'll be in control of that scope sheet. You can make edits as you please. And this is also going to be a critical area where you're able to provide timely field feedback to users. We're going to be very brief on this tool because I really want to get to estimating. I know a lot of folks are excited about it, but I wanted to show just a quick example of how this works and how the field data is already getting connected with the scope sheet. So what you're looking at is our preview of DocuSketch scope sheet and the scope audit screen. On the left, we have all of our different available data. We have the 360 player that you're accustomed to. We have the full floor plan for this that was created from that mitigation caliber floor plan. We have a photo gallery of all of the different photos that were taken on site. We also have all of the available scope notes. So these are the notes that are coming through that speech to scope tool that you just saw. And we have all of the form data as well. Good old-fashioned form data. And so what we're able to do is connect that data to our understanding of the scope of work. And to just show you one example of that, we have here, remove damaged ceiling drywall 200 square feet. That is one scope note, scope item, but it comes from two pieces of disparate data, really. One is the floor plan measurements, which was how much ceiling damage do we have? And the other was part of a transcript where it was noted in an observation, and that's what I'm showing here on the left, that it's about 200 square feet of removal, but there was also discussion about what is the level of damage on the ceiling. And it was clear from the walkthrough that the level of damage on the ceiling means that this needs to be removed. There's already bowing happening. What we're able to do is not only connect the dots between those things, but you'll notice that there's a little reasoning field here. Anywhere that we can pull data that suggests standard, right, and we can apply those standards, we'll connect the dots there. Now, this is incredibly powerful on its own, but you may be saying, well, why is this useful to me? And what does this really provide for me? As you're able to communicate any gaps in scope that you see to the field, and you're able to get more info back, and this scope sheet continues to fill in, I think you're going to see the full power of it as soon as we get to our estimating products. Again, please sign up for the beta. The thing we are not demoing today for time constraints is communicating to the field the additional needs for data, be it a photo, be it 360, be it a video walkthrough, and then the ability to be notified in the field of that need and to get that data back into our system. It's a really important feature in that workflow. But we really wanted to make sure we spent time fully on our estimating suite of products. We are building and have built an initial version of a full estimate review sheet in DocuSketch. This sheet is going to be familiar in some ways to a lot of you. It's going to have a lot of the features that you might have seen in other estimate editing platforms. But the real difference is going to be in connecting all of that field data to the line items along with guidance that will tell you at the line item level, are we confident that this is going to be compliant? Are we confident in the quantities chosen? Are we confident that this is a line item that goes with this type of restoration project? We're able to pull all of that data that you just saw in the scope sheet and that you saw Charlie capture in the first part of the demo and pull it all into an estimate sheet that allows you to fully understand and still control the estimate for the job. So let's take a look at a couple of important features within the full estimate review. And let's just do it fully live. So here what you are seeing is a estimate worksheet for a category 1 class 3 water restoration job. The data started at the floor plan, speech to scope. And we also took some photo data that showed a lot of the specifics of the damage to the walls and ceilings in this case. Most of the damage was on the ceiling. And we took all of those transcribed notes, all of that data, and together created this initial estimate document that you see here. So what I'm showing you is sort of what was output as the initial, hey, this is what we think the estimate is. A couple of things I want to point your attention to. First, this is a fully editable estimate, as you would expect any estimating platform to be. You can edit quantities, you can edit the rates. We're able to duplicate line items. You can delete line items. Right? We're able to add line items from full catalog. We're able to add line items as well. Delete that because it makes no sense. So this is just a fully editable sheet as you would expect. There's bulk actions, there's reordering and rearranging. But those are features that you're used to if you've used another estimating platform. So I don't want to spend our time looking at those in particular. But what I do want to look to is a little bit more about what makes this different. I'm going to call out this confidence level column that you see here. So what we're able to do is not just put together the estimate, and Ralph talked about this a little bit at the beginning. There are, we'll call them frontier large language models, or chat GPTs, for example, that you can just put some data into and it can spit out an estimate. It looks pretty good. And it give you a little bit of its own reasonings. But what it really can't do for you is at a line item level say, this is really, he says, we're highly confident in. This is things that we are somewhat confident in, but we could use more data. And by the way, here's the data that would allow us to get really confident you're going to pass through compliance. And then any items that really are likely to run into a compliance issue. Because of our ability to connect the dots between all of the data you saw at the beginning with a compliance engine and with an AI intelligence engine, we're able to do at a line item level confidence in every line item and give you suggestions on what to do if there's any important needs. So to show you an example of that suggestion, I mentioned that this was a Cat 1 Class 3 water job, but you'll notice in the dining room we have a scrubber. And for those of you who are familiar, that's not standard for every job that is Cat 1. And you'll notice that the compliance engine actually just directly picked that up. For those of you who are used to Ask Amy, this is Ask Amy style compliance review. And we're able to see that there was just a non-standard, you've got a non-standard line item here. You've got Cat 1 water and you've got scrubbers. But what we were able to do is inside of the data and inside of that transcript, there was already discussion about the level of bowing that was occurring. And what we're able to actually do and see is that where we connected some of the photos that was taken, ingested via AI and computer vision, and noted the particular photo where it was showing substantial damage on the ceiling. Now, why does this matter? Well, it matters because if you have to demo the ceiling, the reason for the scrubber is all of the particulate that's going to be in the air as a result of doing substantial ceiling demolition. And so what we're really trying to do is connect the dots to make it easy to see, here's what you're doing in terms of scope, here's why you're doing it, here's the data that tells you it's right. What I'm going to do is I'm going to choose to bypass this rule because it really isn't anything we need to deal with. It's the right thing to do for the job. I want to show you a couple of other quick features that differentiate this estimate from maybe other estimates you've been used to. And so what I've selected in this case is a dehumidifier, but for the sake of time, I'm going to actually just show a feature that is going to be available in our 360 player soon for everyone. It's really often requested feature, and that is adding a snapshot feature to 360s. So in this case, instead of going and looking for a dehumidifier for the sake of time, there's a banana on the floor, And we're going to pretend that banana is the dehumidifier that we want to highlight. Now we'll have AI that will try and ingest and detect dehumidifiers, but we're not going to trust that to always work. And instead, what we want to give is the ability to pull up your 360 tours and timelines, find the data, and then immediately capture that data for use in one or more linked line items for linking. And so what you see here are annotation tools that allow me to actually document the data and take an immediate snapshot. And if we look at the actual linked data now for this item, you'll note we have a banana on the floor. So this isn't what I would send on for compliance yet, but I really wanted to demo this snapshot feature. Again, this is a snapshot feature that's going to be available not just in the estimate, but anywhere that you're leveraging the 360 player. Snapshots by default will save as photos at the room level, so they will be available in any photo gallery or photo experience as part of the photos available for that room. And these snapshots can be used in all of the ways that you might use a photo today in DocuSketch. And they certainly can be used to link one or more line items in this estimate that you see here. Okay. So we've seen some snapshots. We see this estimate. There's some yellows left. And if I want to highlight theirs, we've got 5 things left in this estimate that we might want to address. But for the sake of time, at this point, having addressed the critical items, let's say we want to take this estimate to the next step. What could we do? There's 2 things we can do with this estimate. We can export it. We can also choose to share this estimate. For exporting, we're going to start with a direct integration to Verisk and Verisk Xactimate. You will have the ability to export this into an ASX format, and we have a new long-term 5-year partnership that we have signed with Verisk, and we are working on a very direct integration so we can send this data directly to the right Xactimate instance for this specific project. But additionally, if we can't make that work in every case, and we know in every case that won't work, you also have the ability to download the ASX directly and import it into the appropriate Verisk Xactimate instance. I want to note something that is really important about how the DocuSketch estimate works and how Xactimate price lists work. And that is the pricing that you have in DocuSketch. You have full access to many price catalogs in DocuSketch. You can set up one price catalog for an office. If you have many offices and there's different local pricing that you want to set up, you can set up many price lists for those local offices. In DocuSketch, we recommend you use your local market pricing, and we will have tools to help you set that up if you've never set up a price list or price/cost catalog before. But if you are taking this data outside of DocuSketch and into Xactimate, the price that will be reflected when you pull this estimate into Xactimate will be an Xactimate price list. For those of you who are familiar with Xactimate, you import this ESX, and you will either get a default applied price list, or in most cases, what you'll get is a price list selection screen. You're going to select the appropriate price list inside of Xactimate, and then from there, that will be the applied pricing. All of the other data that you see here will be brought over into Xactimate. And we have a strong partnership commitment with the Xactimate team to maintain a one-to-one relationship to the line items that you see and those line items in Xactimate. So you can be sure that the line items you're using here are going to match the ones you're going to see in Xactimate. One of the things, if you're able to connect the dots between the data and especially the photos and the line items, is we can use the power of F9 notes and do something that I know for some of you is very painful, and that is connecting the photos that go into Xactimate with the F9 notes and those line items that matter. if you allow us to and keep this F9 notes option on, what we do is every single attached photo for that line item, we know what that photo is going to be by name. We reference it and we document in the F9 notes the justification. We're also introducing something called a documentation pack. This is where, for where you sit in this project, we will download any of those photos that were used in this estimate, along with any reports that are ready for this point in the project. Now, if this is day one, we're not going to have a full moisture compliance report done, including drying times. It's not dry yet. But we're able to produce reports for wherever we sit in the project, and that'll be a part of that documentation pack. So you will still have the ability to download individual photos, individual reports, but we also want to make it easy to download what is most common, which is the combination of photos and specific reports. And we're going to put that all together in one pack. This is something that we would recommend you either import into Xactimate, or, as I stated earlier, we are working on, with the Xactimate team, a full integration where we will send this data on your behalf. So on a single click, we will send the estimate into Xactimate, and we will send all of the accompanying data that's needed. So now we have end-to-end connection between the data you captured on site from the first time you're on site, all the way through the end of the job, all into the estimate, and available inside of Verisk Xactimate, where you can take the project from there. We also have share, and I'm going to come back to that in a second as we get into the prelim estimate. I want to mention one more time that what's going to be in DocuSketch is local office pricing. Xactimate price list, that's what you're going to see once you bring it into Xactimate. All the other data is going to come with that estimate, but the pricing will change and be reflected in Xactimate when you bring it in. What I showed you today is a big feature set. That view is our power user do everything view. But it doesn't need to be the only way that estimates are created. In fact, for a lot of points in time in the restoration lifecycle, there's specific types of estimates that you're going to want to create. And rather than having one bulk screen that tries to do everything, we want to have a power user screen, which is what you just saw. But we also want to have streamlined workflows that allow you to create estimates at specific points in time in the process, and do it in a way that doesn't have to expose you to every last detail like we just saw. And so our first offering is going to be streamlined preliminary estimates. I'm going to go right back into a demo mode here. So what you're looking at is what Charlie showed in that PDF report, that moment. If you have captured instant floor plan, you have captured notes through SpeechScope, at that point, we can generate a preliminary estimate just like the one you see here. So with scope notes and with the mitigation map comes the prelim estimate. Once the prelim estimate is generated, this is what you'll see on the screen. While I am demoing this in a web browser, you'll note kind of the size here. That's specifically because what I'm showing is what you will see on an iPhone Pro in this case. But this is meant to be done on mobile phones, on tablets, on site. The idea with a prelim estimate is if there's a right person on site to do the estimate, not everyone should do the estimate, but if the right person's there, then they can actually go all the way from initial capture to estimate before they ever leave the site for the first time. What we're showing here is a general set of information grouped together by room, as well as we're bringing that same item to address forward. So this is using that same initial data you saw in the last demo. So it's bringing that same item forward for review, which is you've got some non-standard, one non-standard item, which is that air scrubber. I'm going to choose to bypass that. And at this point, if it looks good, I could go directly to the export section. Now, I'm just going to briefly touch on instead the actual line items. So this is a mobile phone version of an estimate. And just like that full estimate, you can still edit, duplicate, you can actually do other things that are specific to the phone. For example, we can do a direct capture to estimate line item experience. So if you know that taking a specific photo that doesn't exist in your data yet would really help just establish this line item inside of the estimate, you can go to capture, you can take that photo and it will be associated with this line item in a single capture. So not only is this tool still a fully fledged estimate with the ability to add and remove and update and reorder, but this tool adds the ability to just do simple data capture and connect that data. And remember, if you're exporting to Xactimate, that data is going to go with you all the way into Xactimate, where the F9 notes will link all of it together for you. I'm going to choose to ignore all of the items that are in that warning area. Okay, and then the last piece. You have the ability to share through one or more share links this estimate for any number of reasons. There will be sharing that you can expire after a certain amount of time. So let's say 24 to 36 hours. And this is where we want to work with our customers on where we can take this data, because we are now in a place where if this estimate is ready to go in a prelim estimate, if you're in a situation where it is an out-of-pocket prospect on your hands, this data can be shared directly by us for use as a sales tool, or we can send this data into other systems that you use today to complete the sale. But the idea here is on-site, prelim estimate, complete the sale, use this for situations where you must have some order of magnitude estimate in the first 12 or 24 hours, or for whatever reason, you need to get an initial estimate over and to insurance for compliance reasons. So that is end-to-end, start to finish, from step one and an instant floor plan all the way through line items connected to evidence and a prelim and full estimate. I want to just take one moment and mention what makes us maybe a little bit different than at least what we've seen from our competitors so far. We're really seeking to connect the dots between the initial evidence and the estimate. And while we believe AI is a really important tool for doing that, while we believe AI is a really important tool for doing that, we don't believe using AI as a black box that's going to solve all your problems is the right way to start. And we want to give you control. We want to give the supervisor control at that moment at which they're trying to figure out if the scope is actually the scope for the job, and can they actually get back to the field and finish out the scope of work. We want to give control at the line item level and estimating to make sure that you have the final say on what actually goes out. And we want to use AI to just continuously provide assistance, whether it's reading a moisture meter and reading the actual value and just bringing that value in digitally, or it's using AI to look at a ceiling and moisture issues like you saw in the example. We want AI to be a tool that you can use continuously rather than the thing that's just going to replace it all right now. And so that's what we've done. We've built AI. We have purpose-built AI from the beginning to the end that is just going to enhance your ability to do your job well and to be a better business. And in the end, AI is a set of tools and capabilities. Like, it doesn't matter if it's not grounded in your challenges and your solutions. It doesn't matter if we take AI and then we just try to find a problem to solve, we're doing it wrong. We take your challenges, and AI is just a set of capabilities we look at and say, how could we solve these differently with AI today? Talk a little bit about next steps in terms of timeline. Things are going to start coming quickly. In April, we are going to roll out the instant floor plan, the 360 AI scoping, and that streamlined preliminary estimate experience. Since you all have joined today, we have a QR code that's coming up where you can join the beta in April. It's worth noting for those of you who might be curious and having seen this, we need more data than just that first day if we're going to do a full water mitigation estimate and a full water mitigation solution. And so we are working on that as a fast follow-up in May. We are also working on content. And similarly, we will take the same approach to contents on how do we enhance the experience and how do we make data capture 5x easier, 3 times the value, same amount of time on site. As we go to roll this out, we are going to roll out these solutions over a period of at least 2 months. So for the first suite of solutions, we anticipate spending time in both May and June to roll this out to you. It doesn't matter if we just release it to you. It matters if it's actually being adopted in the field and you're actually finding the value. And we realize that rolling out a series of technologies to technicians, even if the technologies are great, even if they are intuitive, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. It's persistence, it's understanding how to update standard operating procedures, and that's when it works great. So we're going to build great tools for you, but we're not going to sit back and just hand them to you and expect the deployment to magically happen to all of your teams. And we're going to be spending time to make sure that you have the onboarding help and assistance you need to actually achieve adoption with the tools you saw today. The team has been working so hard on all this. As you can imagine, we are incredibly excited to share this with you. Please sign up for the beta. Customer feedback is our lifeblood, and getting these tools from where they are to truly transform them to your business cannot be done without you as well. Thank you so much for your time today, and we will talk again soon.
Awesome. Thanks, Andrew. I am not sure if you worked harder on building all those products or I worked harder answering all of the questions in the chat, because there's an incredible amount of questions. So thank you all for your engagement. I think it's great to see incredible questions, lots of questions about pricing. Again, just to confirm, if I didn't get to your question in the chat, pricing is something we're finalizing. As Ralph said, we heard you. You know, DocuSketch is too slow and too expensive for mitigation jobs. Andrew showed you how we're getting faster. Ralph mentioned we're getting cheaper. We're going to finalize that all over the next few weeks as we get into the beta. If you have lots of questions about integrations, we know that you work with a suite of tools. You know, we want you to do as much work in DocuSketch as possible, but we know there are other tools you need to get this information into. We're working on that. That's another big thing that the product team is working on. And then, as Andrew showed there, you know, the full water mitigation suite of features, we're working on that as well. We know it's not something you want to go out and do, you know, in 3 or 4 tools in the field. So we're trying to bring all of that in and make it as simple as possible for all of you. So yeah, the beta sign up is here. We will also be sending out the recording of this so you can rewatch it, you know, get into some of the demos a bit deeper, share with your team, and the beta will remain open. It's not just today or you miss it. So we'll send out the link and the recording. And yeah, we thank you all for your time. Have a great rest of the day.